share the link, or and it's a short excerpt from one of the letters of Srila Prabhupada
Okay.
that he wrote in 1967 regarding Kirtanananda Prabhu.
Okay.
So
Send me the link, and then
okay, so it's about the mm, fall down which takes place, the attacks of Maya that Srila Prabhupada told that that's in 4 stages. So the 4 stages that he was describing were here. So
okay. So
I have pasted it on chat.
where is that coming from?
Yeah, it's coming from a letter of Srila Prabhupada, letter to Pradyumna, Calcutta, 17 October 1967.
Okay, let me project it on the screen, then we'll get going. Okay,
Yeah.
then we can discuss. Okay, it's a very nice quote. 1 second. So we're going to share a letter that Vinayak Prabhu wants to discuss upon. So 1 second here.
Hare Krishna to Krishna Koli Roy Chudhuri.
Chaudhary. Haribol.
Chudhuri. Hari Bol. Welcome.
Devotees
Nice
from
quote.
Bengal.
Devotees from Bengal. Joy.
Krishna
All right,
Kali.
this is a letter. Okay, let me share the letter. Okay, correspondence 19. Okay, here we go. We have the letter up. I'll give some background. So, Vinayak Prabhu, can you give a background of why you want to discuss? And then,
Oh yeah, I wanted to discuss about these 4 stages because earlier I used to think that this stage of Mayavada is one of the stages anyone before coming to Krishna consciousness faces. But this seems to be much more advanced attack that advanced devotees face. So that I wanted to discuss, from the present scenario of ISKCON and the people and the leaders, is it something we can relate to? Mm,
okay, so you're trying to,
yeah, I would like to discuss this paragraph about.
okay,
So I will read it.
sure.
As a man haunted by a ghost talks so much nonsense, so also when a man is overpowered by the illusory energy Maya, also talks all sorts of nonsense. The last attack of Maya upon the conditioned souls is impersonalism. There are 4 stages of attack of Maya. Ways. One stage is that man wants to be a protagonist of religion. Second is that man neglects religiosity and tries to improve his economic development. Third is to be protagonist of sense enjoyment. And when a man is frustrated in all the above mentioned stages, he comes to fourth, which is impersonalism, and thinks himself one with the Supreme. This last attack is very serious and fatal. Kirtanananda has very recently developed the fourth stage malady on account of his negligence and disobedience to his spiritual master. So, I wanted to discuss these 4 attacks of Maya that somebody is having. So, basically, an ordinary devotee who starts preaching, and sometimes he might get an attack from the first stage, like a stage to become a religious, a protagonist of a religion, or to become a preacher, or get some adoration, or some kind of these things. So because this is the first time I have read this thing a few days ago, and it is quite kind of revolutionary from my previous understanding of Krishna consciousness and the attacks of Maya that may have. So, and it's also quite confusing. Yeah, leading character, protagonist.
Yeah, so it's saying first stage is that a man wants to be a protagonist of religion. So in this context, what does Srila Prabhupada mean? The leading character, like a guru or someone, some spiritual head, a prominent figure in a real situation, an advocate, champion, or a cause or idea. So
Yeah,
protagonist can apply to all these, 2 or 3 situations.
yeah, and an ordinary person in the movement who wants to preach and talk about Krishna consciousness, make devotees and followers, and he's also prone to these kind of attacks. So that might be the first attack someone serious in Krishna consciousness faces.
Yeah,
Mm, okay, so what Narnaran Prabhu has to say on that? Can you share the screen again?
sure. 1 second. No, Prabhu, you understand what Vinayak Prabhu is saying? Or
Not entirely.
why
Can you
not?
give me can you clarify?
Okay.
How are you not?
I thought your response was excellent.
Oh, what was my response? No, my response here is, oh, Vinayak Prabhu wants to hear your understanding or what's your realization regarding point number 1. Stage is that a man wants to be a protagonist of religion. So he wants to hear your understanding of this
Well,
number 1.
devotee, as Vaishnavas, we're not trying to become protagonists of religion. In fact, as Vaishnavas, we have nothing whatsoever to do with religion. Religion is for people that want to stay in the material world. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Religion is for people who are more interested in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending nicely with the blessing of God and all sorts of other nice perks thrown in.
Hmm.
But they are not transcendentalists. They're not trying to become pure devotees. From the Prabhupada's point of view, we're not trying to make religious men. The fact that the GBC has turned itself into a grotesque, ultra ugly religion is not Prabhupada's desire. This is a complete defacement of the movement.
Yeah.
So we do not wish to be religious people. We wish to be transcendentalists and spiritual.
Joy. Vinayak Prabhu, any follow-up questions or realizations?
Yeah, so if it is not in Vaishnava, so how is it possible that okay, so Vaishnava may be able to save himself from first attack, second attack, or maybe third attack also. But the fourth attack, which seems to be from this letter, it might seem that Kirtanananda Prabhu was affected by this fourth attack, which is impersonalism. And this thing happened after he took sannyasa. That means he was pretty much advanced stage of understanding of Krishna consciousness. So what is this like?
Kirtanananda was a very complicated person. I knew him fairly well, not that well. But Kirtanananda was a mixture of a yogi who had practiced yoga, austerities, previous life, a Vaishnava, which he understood how to do, and an impersonalist and a clever sense enjoyer at the same time.
Yeah, he was the whole deal, the big
Yeah, he was quite complicated. Now, a person like that takes many, many births to become like that. And weirdly enough, he was not born in an Indian family. He was not born in a Jewish family or any family like that. He was born in a Baptist family. And I think we can be sure that he was molested as a child, possibly by his father, because he was an accomplished homosexual by the time he reached college age. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So Vinayak had his first point. Did we deal with that? Stating we're not interested in religion or religious people or people practicing religion. That is a disaster. I think that, even our friend Bobby Hebert leans towards being a religious leader, even though he is actually by nature and practice a transcendentalist. But he likes that I've got this group and this is what we do, and that sort of leans towards religion. So what was point number 2 and 3? Because we went from 1 to 4, or did we just jump from 1 to 4?
Yeah, 2 is that a man neglects religiosity and tries to improve his economic development.
Okay, well, that's again material. He neglects religiosity, but I mean, there was a man who had a farm. This is a sort of almost like a joke or a parable. A man had a farm that was very nicely, looked very, very nice. Another man came along and said to the man, "Oh, your farm is so beautiful. God has blessed you, hasn't he?" And the man said, "Well, I worked. And so I prayed as though everything depended on God, but I worked as though everything depended on me." So I think there's a bit of that in that number 2, in that
Yeah.
the religiosity is not the religiosity.
See those
I
again?
mean, giving up religiosity is not going to give you transcendental life, that's for sure. Religiosity is for mundaners. Point number 1 is for mundaners. Point number 2 is for mundaners. From what I gather to point number 4, also for mundaners. Now, what about point number 3?
3 is to be protagonist of sense enjoyment, and when a man is frustrated in all the above mentioned stages, he comes to 4.
Okay, so that all it's really saying is that when a man leaves his religiosity and comes to point number 3, then he becomes an openly expressed and practicing sense enjoyer. But none of this has anything to do whatsoever with Krishna consciousness. You see what I mean? There's no relationship to Krishna consciousness.
Oh, the above mentioned, what was it?
So is
Krishna
there some
consciousness is transcendental and doesn't ever touch upon religion, never touches upon sense gratification, never touches upon any of these other things. Now, having said that, you can say, well, Prabhupada encouraged devotees to get married and have a Krishna conscious life. Why? Yes, but a Krishna conscious marriage means the husband is the spiritual protagonist, not a religious enforcer. Like if you go to a church and you accept all the teachings of the church, then you go home and you become the religious leader of your family. That's not the same thing. When you become a devotee and you become a spiritual protagonist, by in the first case, then when you marry your wife, she takes you as her spiritual guide, not a religious leader or religious dominator, or that she has to obey you for religious reasons. It can look like that at times, but that's not the way it really is, and nor is it the way it's supposed to be. Does that make any sense, Vinayak Prabhu?
Yeah, it made us sense, but I think there is something much more in this letter because
Okay, let's have it.
yeah, this is there might be something like which devotees face after being initiated these attacks.
Why not? Devotee means not pure devotee immediately. They're in the process.
Yeah.
So they can be attacked anytime.
Yeah,
I
because
agree with that.
Prabhupada is saying that the final attack of Maya is impersonalism. So if he's saying that as a final attack, then that might be for some devotees who are above sense gratification. I mean,
Well, impersonalism, when a person's in that state of mind, the person says, I'm a conscious living being. I'm doing what I want. And God has no personality or is not a person. Therefore, whatever I do is fine because I'm in God's kingdom and he doesn't object to anything that I do.
Right.
Well, that's Maya. And that's also not spiritual life. I wouldn't worry about whatever is in this document. I wouldn't apply it to yourself, Vinayak. It has no application at all. It's for religion. What document is it? Where does it come from?
This is a letter to Pradumna, October 17, 1967.
The Prabhupada wrote.
Yeah.
So what parts have we read?
We read the parts from here to here.
Okay, so what do you conclude based upon Prabhupada having written it?
Well, it seems like Kirtanananda rendered some service and he fell down in Maya, so Prabhupada is writing a letter to Pradumna saying that about the situation that occurred, what was going on with Kirtanananda, and Prabhupada goes into detail later in that letter about his situation and what kind of happened, and Prabhupada's glorifying Kirtanananda.
Let me ask, why does this concern us? Why does this concern Vinayak? It was a very touchy situation, and Pradumna needed to be instructed and informed concerning what is going on with Kirtanananda. How does that apply? How would that apply to us?
When I read this, I feel some familiarity with kind of the processes I went through before I came to Krishna consciousness.
Oh yes, before, that's it. So Prabhupada, I guess, is describing that okay, now I have this up where I can read it. Okay, this man wants to be a protagonist of religion. Is a man neglects religiosity and tries to improve his economic development. He becomes a protagonist of sense enjoyment. When a man is frustrated in all above mentioned stages, he comes to impersonalism and thinks of one with the Supreme. Though this last attack is very serious and fatal, Kirtanananda has very recently developed the fourth stage malady on account of his negligence and disobedience to his spiritual master. Sometimes a foolish patient, when he is out of feverish attack by the grace of the physician, thinks that he is cured and does not take precaution against relapse. Kirtanananda's position is like that. Because he helped the society in starting the Montreal Center, I thought he is now able to start other branches. When he asked me to give him sannyas, I agreed to taking the opportunity of his presence in Vrindavan. Simply by his sannyas dress, he thought himself as cured of all material disease and all mistakes, but under the influence of Maya, he thought himself a liberated patient. Just as the foolish patient thinks of himself cured from the disease, under the spell of Maya, he deliberately disobeyed me by not going to London, and consequently his disease has relapsed. Now in New York, he has begun to dictate nonsense in my name, such as giving up, such as giving up roads, flags, meaning Sika, etc. Instead of opening new centers, he's begun to deliver his nonsense sermons amongst his godbrothers, which are all against our principles. For the present, he should simply chant Hare Krishna and cease to deliver lectures, because he has not understood the whole philosophy very nicely. Regarding the hippie religion, we must distinguish ourselves from the hippies. The hippies generally maintain long hair and beard. In order to distinguish ourselves from them, we should be clean shaven. When our devotees go outside, I have no objection if he dresses as nice American or Canadian gentlemen. Up to date, gentlemen are all clean shaved. So if we do not keep long hair and dress ourselves nicely with tilak, flag and beads on the neck, apart from our devotional service, then certainly we shall be distinct from the hippies. I think we should follow this principle rigidly so there's no question of giving up robes in the temple. We do not wish to be estranged from the material world. That is another nonsense. We have to deal with people in the society, and perhaps the only community in the world which renders the best possible service to society. That's a wonderful statement. Ramachandra victory celebration is observed in the last day of Durga Puja. Vaishnavas are not concerned with Durga Puja. Deepavali or Diwali is observed as a New Year's Day by a certain mercantile community. The Vaishnavas have nothing to do with the ceremony, but just on the last day after Diwali and the Vaishnava observe Anakuta ceremony, this celebration is the day when Lord Krishna left the hill of Govardhan and Madhavendra Puri established the temple of Gopal. Use brown, round, or unrefined sugar if you can find it. Hope you are well. So that's a complicated situation concerning Kirtananda in the early days of the movement. Prabhupada took him to India. I thought he gave him sannyas when he came back, but in any event, when he gave him sannyas, that was to keep him separate from the other devotees so that he would not be able to confuse them. But instead, he was busy preaching nonsense that he was making up. And he thought because he took sannyas, now he can say anything he pleases. And this is so early in the movement, what year, 66?
Yes, this is very early. 10,
67,
17,
October 67.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, a year before I was initiated.
Right.
But, yeah, so then he went through that. Now, 67. In 68, I went to New Vrindavan and met with him and Hayagriva and some other devotees that had a building there. And they had initially started out to create a movement against Srila Prabhupada. But then they gradually became, again, disciples of Prabhupada. And when I went there in December of almost exactly 1 year later, in December of 68, that was 67, right? In 68, I went there, and they were very strange, but they were practicing 100% Krishna consciousness. There was no nonsense or maya going on whatsoever.
Right. Okay.
And then I came back in 1969, in spring of 69, a few months later, and that's when Hayagriva finally relinquished the Bhagavad Gita as it is that he had stolen from Prabhupada, and he and Kirtananda had tried to publish it under their own names. So for Vinayak's purpose, we should understand this is information that's been given to try to keep our society together and whole and healthy while discussing a person that went way out on a branch. But later on, look at that. A few months later, he's back in the slot of Krishna consciousness, and I was able to see that with my own eyes. I was there. So this is how miraculous Prabhupada is, that he could bring everything back together from total hell and chaos. Because he came back from India telling all the devotees they shouldn't wear sikas, they shouldn't wear neckbands, shouldn't wear robes, and they should do this, that. And that became very scandalous for the devotees. They wanted to find out from Prabhupada, is this true? And Prabhupada just said no, and he put Kirtananda on very strict leave, which is reflected in this letter here and explained to Pradyumna. Now you might say, why Pradyumna? Because Pradyumna was a scholar. He's the scholar of ISKCON. And so if he understood the clear truth, which Prabhupada put in that letter, then he would be able to, Pradyumna would be able to talk to other devotees and keep them from being tempted to go crazy like Kirtanananda. Okay, is that okay? There's more to it than that,
Yeah.
but I think that's probably all there needs to be said about that particular situation. Is that true?
Yes, Prabhu, it's okay from my side. Thank you for the explanation.
Vinayak. Yeah, now Vinayak, this has nothing to do with you. This is taking a crazy situation that could have begun with we only had a handful of devotees in the movement, maybe 40 or 50 devotees in the whole movement. It's that. So Prabhupada needed to come in and save the situation. So it has nothing to do with you, Vinayak Prabhu. You're a saint by comparison to Kirtanananda, I assure you.
No, Prabhu, that time, like you were saying that Pradyumna Prabhu being a scholar, like that time also in 67, he knew Sanskrit and reading Bengali literatures and everything.
Who is that?
Pradyumna Prabhu.
Oh yeah, Pradyumna. Pradyumna was a very great scholar, and he had connections with Harvard.
So before coming to
he
Krishna,
was trying to help Prabhupada create the editing of his books so that it would be accepted by academia, meaning the educated class of people in Harvard. And Harvard was the leader of Sanskrit studies, so Pradyumna wanted Prabhupada's books to be the leading books of Harvard studies. So he worked closely with Prabhupada to make that occur.
so Pradyumna Prabhu was knowing Sanskrit before coming to Krishna consciousness.
I'm sorry, before he became a devotee, I'm not sure. I really don't know. You're asking if he was studying Sanskrit before he came to Krishna consciousness?
Yeah, because it was 1967 and it's very difficult to grasp Sanskrit within just 3 years of the movement.
You'd be amazed at what people were able to do back then. It may be, I don't know. He might have had study in Sanskrit. He certainly had study in different types of philosophy. I never got to know Pradyumna extremely well, but he was very close to Srila Prabhupada. At the beginning of every class, the Prabhupada would give, Pradyumna would be there, and Pradyumna would begin the whole process of giving the class with Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. If you hear that in front of a class, that's Pradyumna saying it.
Yeah, Pradyumna and Nitai Prabhu, mostly.
Well, mostly Pradyumna.
Yeah.
You say Nitai?
Yeah, sometimes he also.
But Nitai ended up leaving the movement because he disagreed with the way that Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta took initiation from Guru Krishnadas Babaji.
Okay, we have some new devotees joining us. His name is Aryan and Krishna Kohli. If they can introduce themselves and
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
if they can introduce themselves, telling them where they're hearing from and how they came to the meeting and how we can assist them in their Krishna consciousness.
Right.
Okay. If not, then we'll continue then. Anything else, Vinayak Prabhu, you want to discuss? Well, maybe I can, let's see, someone said something. No. Someone messaged something. I don't know, what's your question? Who's Aryan? Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances, all glory to Srila Prabhupada. If possible, can you explain this or provide any linkage to this? No, he's asking that these Ritvik acharyas, they're officiating giving diksha. They're the people who give diksha to those, to whose disciple are they? They are his disciples. They are his disciples. Who is initiating? He is grand disciple. So what's your question? What does it mean, grand disciple? And they're his disciple. So he, let's see
Well,
here.
we don't really go there because we consider there is no such thing as grand disciple. We consider that everyone can be number one, first in line disciple of Prabhupada, directly initiated by Prabhupada via the
Officiating.
process of officiating acharyas. So that from now on, there will be no disciple, grand disciple, this disciple, that disciple. It just said everyone will be God brothers and God sisters, regardless of when they were initiated.
Yeah, these ISKCON GBC people, they try to make things very, very complicated and very
Well,
misconstrued.
because for them it's a business.
Yeah,
And they want
that's
to
it.
be sure that all the business
Yeah,
parts are kept in place.
yeah. So then he has, so is this not an authorized text? Well, it's not authorized text. What do you mean by that? Is Tamal was always up to something, you know, whenever he asked a question. Let's see. Okay, share this transcript. Let me go here. Okay, so he asked that question when Srila Prabhupada said his grand disciple. So we just answered it. So he's asking, is it not a bona fide? So is this not an authorized text? Well, Prabhupada speaks it here in this May 28th transcript. So I'm not sure what you're trying to ask. We're saying that everyone is Prabhupada's disciple, the Uttama Adhikari.
Yeah, everyone is equally Prabhupada's disciple. If you take initiation through the officiating acharya, you become my godbrother. I was initiated by Prabhupada personally in September 20th, 1968. And here we are in 2022.
Right.
And if you want to be Prabhupada's disciple, then you become my godbrother. Are you going to say junior godbrother? I mean, if you want to get really tricky, you can say, yeah, junior godbrother by a few decades. But that's not the point. You're my godbrother, godsister. We're all equal. I mean, who are we to create distinctions on earth?
Right.
Look at that. What we just read that about trying to create a hierarchy of people based on religion and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's all it is. It's just bogus religion. We don't need a hierarchy because in Krishna Loka, hierarchy doesn't work that way. In Krishna Loka, the devotees of Krishna, the residents of Krishna Loka are all in relationship to one another based upon their relationship to Krishna, not based in their relationship to some organization.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Narayana Prabhu, you just mentioned that everyone is in deep ecstatic love with Krishna. There's no distinction between this, that, and
Yeah.
Mother Yashoda.
So a cowherd boy is on technically a lower status than a gopi. But that doesn't mean the cowherd boy doesn't have a function to fulfill there that is just as qualified, just as satisfying to Krishna as that as the gopi is. In other words, the hierarchical structure of Krishna Loka is based upon devotional service, not based upon what year you were initiated. And in fact, in Krishna Loka, nobody's initiated. Everyone's eternally there. All this initiation does is create religion.
Jai, yeah. But Prabhupada did say there was some Vaishnava etiquette that, devotees that were initiated earlier than you, yeah.
Well, yes, that is simply because human beings require that.
Yes.
They require that. Just like honoring your father and mother doesn't go away when you become a Vaishnava.
Yes. Yes.
And if your mother and father become devotees, it doesn't go away.
Right. Never goes away, right?
No, but it doesn't dominate the realities that you were both. If the whole family was initiated on the same day, mother, father, 2 children, or whatever, aunt, uncle, they all initiated on the same day by Prabhupada. Well, that doesn't mean that the family structure is broken down so that everyone is now equally neophyte Vaishnavas.
Right, right.
Everyone remains who they were in the relationship they had before.
Jai. And Prabhu is asking a follow-up question. He said, since many people use this text to defend themselves and their guru, well, they can do anything they like, these people that come up
Say
with
that.
this.
Could you repeat that again?
He says, since many people use this text to defend themselves and their guru.
Okay, what is the text again?
He's talking about grand disciples of how the ISKCON initiators are qualified to be having disciples.
And who has written that text?
Oh,
Is that,
that was in the letter that Srila Prabhupada says they will have grand disciples, or he will be grand disciple of Prabhupada's officiating Acharya.
yeah, but you have to, that's from the May 28th
Yeah,
tape. Right?
yeah, May 28th.
Well, if you notice the May 28th tape, there's a lot of stuff that's very, very convoluted and confused,
Oh, yeah.
mixed
Yeah.
up. Of course, people try to say it isn't, but it is.
Yeah, they're trying to use this May 28 as justification for them to be Kanishta Adhikari or less than Kanishta Adhikari gurus. And if we look at the history of ISKCON, it did not work, and it will never work unless the person is an Uttama Adhikari. That's there in the scripture, Nectar of Instruction, and many other.
And since nobody is, go ahead.
No, I said these people are just using this tape just to justify and bypass being an Uttama Adhikari to have any Tom, Dick, and Harry can be a guru.
So what is it they want to use it for?
To money and power. That's it. To control the
But
chickens.
if they're saying that from the back, but what about from the front? In other words, they are making up that whole structure, but then they are trapped in that structure as well.
Right, right. So these May 28th, July 9th letter or whatever it is, it has to be understood in a proper context. What was Prabhupada doing, how he was trying to save the movement, It's not just take it and run kind of thing,
Yeah. So all of these structures, they're disciple, grand disciple. At what point does it end?
At the point I become the next Acharya and replace Srila Prabhupada.
That's all used to stack people up underneath an Acharya.
Yeah, like the Acharyas need our help.
Yeah, but I mean, how about a bogus Acharya? The bogus Acharya needs all the help he can get.
Right. Yeah. So you've come. Then he's asking Prabhu, then how to prove them or help them understand that the previous disciple of Prabhupada has adulterated the audio and text. Well, if you read Prabhupada's books, it is very clear who can be a guru. Nectar of Instruction, Srimad Bhagavatam, and other places. The guru must be an Uttamadhikari. So if
Yeah,
they,
so while everybody is busy fiddling around trying to decide which amongst us is the next potential Uttamadhikari,
yes,
we are forgetting that Prabhupada is already the Uttamadhikari.
yes, yes,
And in the end, we're just going to have to all come like a bunch of idiotic kids after they've been playing and being very naughty. They're all going to have to come and sit in the circle around the campfire with their fingers touching their lips, saying, there is only one Uttamadhikari, and that's Srila Prabhupada.
yes,
And without any other Uttamadhikari on the horizon, we don't need to pretend or play to be Uttamadhikari simply because we have a command of Shastra or because we know Sanskrit or some reason like that. That's not a reason enough. They have to be able to be a friend. Prabhupada is a descended. They want to say Prabhupada is dead, therefore who's going to be next? They're saying Prabhupada is gone, who's next? Prabhupada is dead, who's next? Prabhupada was Acharya, who's next?
right,
But who the hell are they to say that Prabhupada is gone? As we say, he reasons ill who say Vaishnavas die, when thou art living still in sound, emphasis on the word sound. Vaishnavas die to live, and living spread the holy life around. So Prabhupada is alive in sound, and his sound is in his recordings. And those recordings, if studied and practiced, in other words, you get like if there's 20 new devotees that never came into Krishna consciousness before, sitting in the temple, we give them headphones and they put on the headphones so they can hear Prabhupada chanting. But basically, they would all have headphones tapped into one kirtan that Prabhupada is chanting, and all 20 are hearing it through their headphones. And when they hear that for a number of days, they won't know it. They'll have it. Then they have a kirtan in the temple after they do their headphone session, put down the headphones to sub kirtan. They will play mridanga like Prabhupada. They'll dance like Prabhupada. They will play kartals like Prabhupada, and they will chant like Prabhupada.
is that clear, Aryan?
Yeah. At what point wouldn't that work?
Yeah. I mean, another point is that most people are trained to be followers. People don't critically think. First thing they take away from you when you join the so-called hijacked GBC ISKCON is they tell you to leave your brains out at the door and run with our brains. What we tell you is what you believe. That's why a lot of people just follow. Here we're telling people, okay, read Prabhupada's books and think for yourself. We're not.
Yeah, because everybody then is saying, okay, then who is going to be the leader?
Yeah. Well, why don't you become the leader?
Well, of course, but why don't we say, well, Prabhupada is the leader?
Yeah, and Prabhupada is the leader, and then the leader is speaking.
We say, but he's dead. We say he's not as dead as you are, dude.
Right. So
how could we say that Prabhupada is dead when his sound vibration is vibrating as much as it was when he was alive?
Yeah. Just
how do you distinguish dead? When a Vaishnava dies, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Does that mean that he ceases to exist, or that he goes and takes another body? Maybe he becomes a raccoon or a horse, or a tiger. What does it mean when an Acharya dies?
Yeah, the benefit of Kali Yuga and especially Srila Prabhupada appearing, just in our lifetime is everything is recorded and archived. So there's nothing like this for any other Acharya or spiritual teacher, So
yeah, so we need to get used to it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're the people that introduced Prabhupada to tape recorders.
Yeah.
I think. So now let's make that work for us.
Yeah. The books are there, the tapes are there, the letters are there. What else do you need? I mean, come on.
Yeah. If Prabhupada said he's living through his books, those are just paper and ink. How can you say you're living through paper and ink? But that's not the point, is it? It's the sound vibration in that paper and ink. When you read
Right.
it, the sound vibration comes out as sound, not as ink.
Haribol. So he asks a further question here. Aryan Prabhu is saying, thank you very much, Prabhu. Right. So, Prabhu, so how long do this guru business will go on? Would there be any time when everyone will understand Prabhupada is the only Diksha Guru in the future? Well, it's already going on. We have
Yeah,
insight.
and why not? But we don't mean Diksha Guru as an abstract dead person sitting there.
No,
We mean Diksha Guru
living right
So-
now. Yes.
Yeah, so that to become initiated by Prabhupada, a person must become prolific in
Try.
chanting Hare Krishna the way he chants and never chanting or allowing anyone to chant anywhere else.
Yeah.
All these kirtans all over the place are simply jokes. They're not jokes, they're insults.
And another point that Prabhu is asking, the guru business is already failing. It failed, back in the 70s, so it's, he's concerned about the future when Prabhupada is the only Diksha Guru.
Well, how can he say that it failed in the 70s?
I mean, these people who the successors who came in the 1970s, and they were trying to be gurus, right?
Well, not in the 70s. They weren't trying to become gurus.
Well,
they
Achyutanandana tried to be the guru in 1968 or something. Prabhupada said, when the spiritual master is alive, you bring the prospective candidate to the Acharya, Srila Prabhupada.
No, that because he was being polite to a bunch of creeps.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I
We
guess.
shouldn't take that. We can take it seriously in the mood of what it really was. But we can't take it seriously. Oh, this is what Prabhupada wanted us to do. No, he's the Acharya. He was there. He was able to speak. You could ask him questions. He could deliver transcendental sound vibration. His kirtans are equal to those in Krishna Loka. So now, why do you want not to have kirtan from Krishna Loka? Who would not want to have kirtan from Krishna Loka? Do you see what I mean?
A madman?
It's just a person who thinks, if I chant and become a popular icon, like a rock star with kirtan, boy, I will really be pleasing everyone. And when I see a crowd of 1,000 people dancing in ecstasy when I'm leading the kirtan, that means I must be very spiritually advanced.
Yeah.
But what if he is simply exercising their different chakras other than their crown chakra? What about the heart chakra? Or isn't that just, that's just sentimental, that's just sense gratification. The kirtans in the temples today are based on sense gratification. And they're ugly to hear.
Okay, he has some more questions. Or no, that's it. Well, he's asking about the present day criminal GBC Guru program. So, he's asking in the future when they don't exist anymore.
Say again?
Well, he's asking about the criminal GBC appointed guru program.
Yeah. Well, what about it?
They're saying,
everything they do proves their guilt.
Yeah.
Every move they make proves their guilt.
Oh, yeah. So I guess he's talking about in the future, how long will it take for Srila Prabhupada to be the only Diksha Guru? Well, he's always been the only Diksha Guru.
It could take a long time or it could be instantly.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I was thinking the other day, or well, today, I was like, well, Prabhupada was a disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the contrarian Acharya, and then he started his own movement, right? And if this ISKCON appointed GBC appointed criminal gurus, if they're the next Acharya, they should start their own sampradaya, or I mean, own.
That is exactly what's happened throughout history.
Yeah.
You have a genuine Acharya, then you have people branching off, and then people branching off from that. Next thing you know, they're all trying to set up their own little Acharyaship somewhere.
Yeah. So
but all that is Prabhupada describes that as a social disturbance.
Yeah. So here, no one can do it. No one can do what Srila Prabhupada has done. So they use Srila Prabhupada as some sort of medium.
Yeah. It's a lucky rabbit's foot.
What? Lucky rabbit? What?
Lucky rabbit's foot.
Well, what does that mean?
Having the foot of a dead rabbit is considered lucky if you're Irish.
Oh.
Or a four-leaf clover. They consider that to be a lucky thing, but that doesn't have any value.
Yeah, value, right. So why?
You have to understand that in essence, all of the Acharya, everyone compared to Prabhupada is a fallen soul.
Oh yeah.
So now, if we preach like that to the public, everyone compared to Prabhupada is a fallen soul, then people will say, well, why am I following this guru? He's a fallen soul. Unless he can prove otherwise. If he can prove otherwise, how is he going to possibly do that?
Yeah. He also asked another question, so I answered him. He said, Narayan Prabhu, thank you very much. If possible, can you share your relationship with Srila Prabhupada before and after his disappearance, please? And how can I try to please him more, even though I am not all qualified and I have very less enthusiasm?
The way to please him is to beg him that you can become his disciple via the officiating Acharya.
Yeah. So if he's asking for your insights about Prabhupada memories, that is there on YouTube. You can catch that on YouTube. So here we want to discuss.
As time goes on, the question will answer itself in a more and more simple way.
Yes.
Because you've got everybody else and you have Prabhupada.
Yes.
And you say, well, what about this everybody else? What about that guy? What about that guy? What about that guy? Okay, keep on thrashing around for X number of days, years, decades, or whatever.
Right.
And in the end, what are you going to end up with?
Sure, Prabhupada.
What about so-and-so and Prabhupada? You've reduced it down to 2 or 3 out of 1,000. And now, what about him and Prabhupada? And then we can just say, yeah, what about him and Prabhupada? Which one do you think is the pure devotee?
Srila Prabhupada.
Or Prabhupada is. And then that him goes out the door.
Yeah, I mean, in our Istagoshti meetings, we started about a little over maybe a year and maybe close to 2 years. We have talked to many so-called senior devotees, right? Narayan Prabhu, Rupa is there. They all have some, strange understanding about Srila Prabhupada. Now you try to digest all that and understand, okay, what is he talking about? Their understanding about Srila Prabhupada is very, very low class, if you want to use that.
Well, that's the problem.
What does that mean?
But basically, even people that were initiated by Prabhupada, their understanding of Prabhupada was pretty low class.
Yeah.
Otherwise, how is it possible that any of these other gurus could have raised their heads out of the mud?
Yeah, right.
How could they stick their heads out of the swamp?
Yes.
We allowed it.
Right.
And we still are allowing it.
Yeah.
Because when we see someone like Vaisheshika, our material instincts are, oh, he's powerful, I'm weak. He's rich, I'm poor. he's got followers, I don't. And you begin to say, he must be great, and I'm not.
This is all bogus. I mentioned some points on Vaisheshika's page and he deleted my post. Vaisheshika was just trying to portray Srila Prabhupada as his guru. I told him, hey, Srila Prabhupada is not only your guru, he's the guru of everyone who comes in contact with, Prabhupada's books and his movement. And he deleted my post.
Well, not surprising.
Yeah, so we can see that these people are, motivated by money, power, control. They don't want to empower people to have Prabhupada immediately right now, as
No,
their,
they don't want to accept.
yes. So they spread this sectarian political movement, which is not Prabhupada's movement. Okay, so do we have any other questions from our devotees here? Amritya Pandey says, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, do you want to introduce yourself, whoever you are? You can unmute yourself and speak anytime you like. Okay. Okay, Aryan Prabhu saying, Hare Krishna. Oh, he's saying, okay, Prabhu, I will have to leave. Thanks to Narayan Prabhu and you. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Hari Bol, your servant. Excellent, Prabhu. Join us, yes, next time. Anytime, message us. We would like to know you, who you are, and how we can help serve you. And, we'll take it from there.
Was that Vinayak?
No. Yes, Jagannath Das Prabhu.
What you call the name of this meeting, and what does that mean?
Ishtagoshti. I will email it to you so you can read it. Narayan Prabhu, can you explain Ishtagoshti in like 2 or 3 minutes?
Sure. Ishtagoshti is a society of equals. And why are they equals? Because all jivas are equally part and parcel of Krishna.
Right.
So in the association or the assembly of an Ishtagoshti, everyone comes in as equals. Now, what does that mean? Supposing you're in a temple. Well, there's a temple president, temple commander, the pujari, the Sankirtan leader, regular members of the congregation, and even a stranger wanders in off the street. Well, if there's an Ishtagoshti, they are all considered equal. It's not that the temple president is of a higher level than the average devotee in the room. That's where the distinction is. Otherwise, Ishtagoshti would simply be a way of reinforcing the, what you call, hierarchical structure of human society. And that's Ishtagoshti's function is the opposite. It's not to create a lower article, it's to create equality. It doesn't equate equality, it reveals the equality that is there via being jivas. So every jiva, one-on-one, is equal to every other jiva. So that when I see you or you see me, we can either recognize each other as parts and parcels of Krishna, or we can struggle through what we feel to be our material identities and births and relationships and cultures and languages and all that. But that can be dropped because in reality, it doesn't exist. In reality, we are just jivas. So when you have the jivas there, what is the Ishtagoshti? Ishtagoshti means circle of cowherd boys. And what does that mean, the circle of cowherd boys? Well, when Krishna in Vrindavan, in the spiritual sky, is associating with his cowherd boy friends, they all sometimes sit down in a circle to discuss things confidentially, openly, and equally. Now, these are liberated Uttama Adhikaris in the spiritual sky, not us. But we can have an Ishtagoshti. Prabhupada said we can have Ishtagoshti, but the principle is that we're dealing with each other as jivas, as pure spirit soul. So now in that circle of cowherd boys, who is sitting there as cowherd boys, right? But who sits as an equal with the cowherd boys when the cowherd boys are seated? And that's Krishna. Krishna sits equally with his cowherd boyfriends. Otherwise, he'd be a dictator, a tyrant, not a cowherd boy. Cowherd boys means they're equal. They must relate to each other as equals. So when we get to the cowherd boys, that's the ideal of this Tagosti because they're all equal. However, Prabhupada said, if we are having a very nice Tagosti and sharing this transcendental knowledge in a very nice way, Krishna actually, the cowherd boys and Krishna actually come and sit with us. When we declare Istagosti, the cowherd boys and Krishna appear like a halo in the sky above our heads. If we act accordingly, nicely, so that we're not creating, a power structure or something of that sort, then the cowherd boys and Krishna will settle down with us and we'll have such inspired conversations because they will be helping to guide our words and our thoughts and our feelings. That is Istagosti.
Very
Right.
nice. Thank
So
you.
I sent you the paper on Ishtagoshti, Prabhu, so you can read and ask further questions next time, or if you'd like to read it now. So I'd like to shift the conversation to our comments from our devotee well-wishers and friends on YouTube. Moses Singleton Prabhu says, Haribol, peace and blessings. And then Amon Bon says, Hare Krishna Prabhus, World War III is already here. Then he further says, best thing to do is to take Srila Prabhupada's instructions and read books, distribute prasadam, and chant on the streets. And Lakshmi says, Hare Krishna. Then Lakshmi further says, I heard Kirtanananda went into nonsense after a knock on his head. Then Lakshmi also says, I haven't been initiated. Thank you for your association, Prabhu. Then Mon Bon says, do you think that ISKCON will eventually cancel Srila Prabhupada based on racist statements and use it as a scapegoat? Then Krishna says, Hare Krishna. And Rob says, only with Krishna can we have eternal life. Hare Krishna. Lakshmi further says, Srila Prabhupada's instructions come through the speakers, and then, after a short time, I was able to hear them in my heart, consciousness. Aristo Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Aristo Prabhu says, anger, greed, and lust are the three main diseases that cause the downfall of humanity. My obeisances to all devotees, Aristo says. Aristo Prabhu again. Thank you, Prabhus, for sharing your enlightened perspectives. Hare Krishna. And then Christopher says, lovely explanation of Ishtagoshti. Okay, it's Christopher. We have a group, anyone who's watching, so we share these documents. So the link of the group is in the description. So if you'd like, you can join. It's a WhatsApp group, or you can continue to watch on Facebook and YouTube. Okay, thank you very much for the lovely comments. Now let's see if we can have some discussion on these comments here. Well, this is very interesting. Devotee is saying here, do you think that ISKCON will eventually cancel Srila Prabhupada based on racist statements and use it as a scapegoat? What do you think?
What is that?
He's saying, do you think that ISKCON will eventually cancel Srila Prabhupada based on the racist statements and use it as a scapegoat?
ISKCON was created by Prabhupada. Well, if you're talking about scoundrels that have hijacked ISKCON,
Yes.
no, we will not allow that to happen.
Try.
But why should we think? It's just the idea that ISKCON is, I'm small, is what I was saying about Vaisheshika. Oh, he's big and rich, I'm small and poor. Well, what about ISKCON? Oh, it's big and rich and I'm small and poor. No, ISKCON is for everyone, not just the rich, not just the people that can beat other people up. You know?
Jai. We have a comment from our devotee here in our Zoom program chat. His name is Amritya Pandey. He's commenting, I am an engineering student from India and trying to have Krishna consciousness simultaneously. My life has changed after watching hundreds of Prabhupada videos in YouTube. I was very materialistic in the past, but now I've understood the truth. Every lesson in the Bhagavad Gita is so relevant and truth. I hope I would be regular in this Zoom session despite my busy schedule. So our meetings are in America, California time, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. So in India, there's a time difference. So you can join Wednesdays. Tomorrow we'll have another meeting, and then Sunday. So you can join anytime we're on. Or you can contact us if you have any personal questions. Our group link is in the Facebook and YouTube chat. So we're available to help assist anyone in Krishna consciousness.
Jai.
All right. Let's see if there's any more comments here. All right. I wanted to play some. Bhakta Robin sent us some messages, so I'd like to play it live.
Sure. And Dr. Robin wants us to get started is hoping that Rupa Manjari will get started with the web page. He sent so much material. He says that nothing's been done with it.
Yes. Here's he's making a point here. So anyone is welcome to send us a comment, or anything else. Comment, realization, doubt, chastisements.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, really nice lecture with Guru Kripal. Nice Ishta Gosta meeting. I have a suggestion.
This is
Hare Krishna Prabhu, really nice lecture with Guru Kripal. Nice Ishta Gosta meeting. I have a suggestion. Can't you take questions from people like us, who are watching the recordings? Like we send you a message or something like this, then you read the question. That would also be good because I can't attend live. Like I will try to make some more smaller videos out of this. It has very good memories from Narayan Prabhu. But I also think you should make a demonstration video. How to chant the Prabhupada tune. Narayan should make a demonstration. Maybe he can meet with Rupa Manjari and then they can make a demonstration video how to do this. Training video, how to train people, how to do the Prabhupada tune, because I don't really know, to be honest. We talk about the Prabhupada tune, but I don't know exactly what they're meaning.
Okay, so this is some feedback from our devotees who download our meetings and hear it. So anyone is welcome to send us a message, suggestion, or comment, and we'll read it or hear it live. So thank you, Bhakta Robin, for sharing. Your comments are always enlightening and helpful to others. Okay. Let's see if we have anything else here. No? Who's here? Christopher is joining. Who's Christopher? Jagannath Das Prabhu, anything you'd like to share, Prabhu?
Sure. I have something to share.
Sure, go ahead.
Or maybe I can share my screen.
Okay, let me give you screen share. How do I do this? Multiple. Okay, go ahead, Prabhu. I think you should be able to share now.
Okay.
Okay, Christopher. Okay, Christopher is there.
Do you see
Oh,
this?
Yeah. Can you read and
Yeah, one thing I've been stressing so much about, like the shape of the earth and the fifth canto, and sometimes it's been disturbing my mood and stuff like that. So I just read this recently and it helped kind of relieve some of that stress and make me not focus on it so much. I'll just read the whole thing.
Sure.
Later in his room, Srila Prabhupada discussed more about Vedic cosmology with Paramahamsa. The different planetary orbits, Srila Prabhupada said, were all independent. The so-called law of gravity was not mentioned as such in the Vedic literature. Prabhupada answered a few more of Paramahamsa's questions about the current work of Srimad Bhagavatam 5th Canto, and then fell silent. Actually, he added after a few minutes, I'm not giving any more information, simply what is there. Prabhupada was frank. I'm not an astronomer, so I may not understand all the details. Those details are given in another part of the Vedas. Shukadeva Goswami is giving some basic summary ideas of the universal operation. The stress, Prabhupada concluded, is on devotion, not geography.
Yeah, excellent. That you are very interested in, trying to figure the whole thing out. So, right, from what I understand. Excellent. So that's a wonderful realization that you're sharing. That instead of trying to figure out the whole thing, we should focus in serving Srila Prabhupada and devotion.
Yeah, I think it's a lifetime of study. I think it's very hard to understand.
Yeah, I mean, Krishna is unlimited creative potency. How can you understand it unless you are, I guess, a very exalted person. Even then,
I think
yes.
The problem is, it's not so much being an exalted person, because we are not, and we cannot be exalted persons. Exalted persons are way beyond our capacity
to understand.
I mean, if you're going to go to the top of Mount Kailash, or if you're going to go to the forest of Naimisharanya and discuss with sages, that's exalted association.
Yeah.
We're not like that. We're the lowest of the low. Technically, we're malachas. We're untouchables by birth. So because of that, and I'm saying most of Hindus also have become untouchable.
Oh yeah, everyone.
So because of that, that's not what our concentration is. Our concentration is on the fact that Prabhupada is a pure devotee, and we want to get out of the material universe. We want to get out of the material world and go back to home, back to Godhead. I believe that's the basic idea behind most people. Of course, there's all those that want to become gurus and have followers, so all that. That's their problem. But we don't need to be burdened with that. So by hearing Prabhupada directly from his kirtans, particularly, everything that Prabhupada said, you can listen. But to have a Sankirtan, Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement depends entirely on us studying Prabhupada's kirtans, not somebody else's kirtans. I mean, when you stop to think of the contrast between hearing Prabhupada's kirtans and somebody else's kirtans, doesn't it make you say, gag me with a maggot or something, you know what I mean?
With a maggot.
Yeah. Who can imagine that something outside of Prabhupada would be of equal or superior value to Prabhupada? That's what they're boiling it down to. They say, oh, I'm from Prabhupada. Oh, he's a very great soul. He's dead. And we make sure you understand that. And we make the temples such that there's temples to represent his death and his deadness. But what about if he's not dead? Then you have a big problem, because that means that Prabhupada will be alive and everybody else will be dead. So that's their job, is to bring Prabhupada into the springboard, to discover that Prabhupada is already in the center, take shelter of Prabhupada in the center, and then let others, when the study is there of Prabhupada's kirtans, then when the devotees who have studied it and used it in kirtan in the temples go out in the street, the kirtans in the street will be so electrifying that people will want to come and join the temple immediately, the way they did back in 1967.
Okay, we have another devotee named Christopher. Christopher, can you unmute yourself and speak? Prabhu, can you just click on unmute on the lower, what is it, lower right, lower left? Or is it Christopher? Can you hear us, Christopher? Thumbs up if you can hear us. Okay. Can you speak also? You can unmute yourself.
Oh, he might be on a phone, so it might be a little bit different.
Oh, Christopher, are you on an iPhone or some kind of phone? Yeah, just click on the screen and then you'll say unmute. Unmute, right? Is that it, Jagannath Das Prabhu?
I'm on a computer now. I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah. Oh, okay. Anyways, I guess he's learning the program. Jai Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. So, Jagannath Prabhu, did you check out Sataputa Prabhu's lectures about the cosmos and this and that? How was it? Was it?
Yeah, I've started. I bought 3 of his books, but they haven't come yet, so I'll study them. But yeah, I don't know yet. I don't know if I haven't read enough of it or watched enough of it to completely understand his understanding. But he does say in some places that the Earth is described as a flat plane in his lectures, but then in other places he makes some conjectures or what feels like stuff that isn't in the Bhagavatam. So I don't know yet if I agree with him completely, but I can't judge yet confidently.
Okay. Christopher, I've asked you to unmute. So if you, okay. All right. Hare Krishna, Christopher. Sorry, I guess it's a problem on my side. We can hear you now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Prabhu.
There seems to be a delay, a delay on the screen, but when I'm
That's
looking
fine.
at,
Yes,
okay,
that's fine. You can speak.
you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, I only just came on about 5-10 minutes ago because I was doing something else first, and you're
Sure.
quite a way into this, so I don't know what you've been discussing. I mean, you're just talking
That's
about
fine.
this 5th canto at the moment. I don't have much of an opinion, save that try and get it as much. It's always struck me to, what the scientists believe, try and see how much that's in conjunction with it or not. That's always been my thinking, but I don't really have so much of an opinion on that.
Okay, that's fine. So, how did you come in contact with this Ishtagoshti meetings we've been having for the past year and plus?
It's been coming on well since about January occasionally. I mean, I'm in England, and so I'm coming. I mean, it's very difficult. It's difficult for me because it's like, what is it? Well, it's usually comes on about 4 o'clock in the morning, so I might be up doing things and stuff. So that's why I'm often not able to come onto it. But I'm impressed with what's being said here, and what's just the vibe that's where things are. Not as they should be in this form, to put it mildly.
So what exactly is the area that you want to understand more of?
Well, what to understand? Mainly, well, first of all, listening to you, I'm impressed with a bit of what you're saying. But with regard to understanding how things relate, I mean, especially these last 2 years with this whole government propaganda and everything, that's probably brought me back into sort of looking at Krishna consciousness. I mean, I was first involved with it about
unfortunately, because in the history of the world, there's been, kingdoms that were Christian or Muslim, but they were something, they had a belief system, and people had to follow that system, whether they were at the top or if they were groveling around at the bottom, grinding up coconut shells or something of that sort. That's what it was. Right now, we're living in a time which has been liberated by technology, by the internet and by cell phones and stuff like that, to the point where any 10-year-old child can actually feel that he can compete with every other person on earth, including politicians and scientists. And the politicians and scientists certainly feel that to the core, don't they? They're doing it too. Everybody's busy tweaking each other and torturing each other due to the fact that they all have equal access to technology. They all have equal access to incredibly subtle information that was not available to anyone but scientists 20, 30 years ago. So what can you do about it? In our situation, the only thing that can actually be done is for people to begin to chant Hare Krishna as though their lives depended on it. And that will create a sense of order in their lives. Were you discussing science and the role of science with Krishna consciousness?
No, I was thinking about, well, similarities with regard to governments being taken over by nefarious entities or misunderstandings, as ISKCON would be. There are so many similarities, and I think in religious paths, I mean, Krishna consciousness seems to be the best, mostly because it's talking about Krishna being the supreme personality of Godhead, which is a very incredibly high thing. But I think a lot of things, things that seem to be profound, but they'll fall, or they'll be, I'll see something, oh, that's a disgusting philosophy or something. But there is a lot of similarities, and I think that has to be kind of
similarities. When you say similarities, what are you comparing to what? Similar to what? What is similar to what?
Well, that's a huge thing. Take for instance the last 2 years. There's this whole movement of standing park, or people basically, people questioning the government, what's behind the government, conspiracy and all this sort of thing.
Oh, they're questioning a lot more than just the government. That's just perhaps your interest or my interest may be government, but they're questioning everything. They're questioning sexuality of 6-year-old children.
Well, people
this whole woke situation means
that's a gender.
There are no holds barred. There are no rules. There are no limits. There are no restrictions. When you have a society that's like that, that is very similar to when you have a psychiatric patient who is completely psychotic.
Yeah,
this is the world which is showing the symptoms of clinical psychosis. Why?
Go ahead, Christopher.
A psychotic person, their mind operates without any boundaries, without any limits, and without any checks and balances.
I can't hear you.
Does that make sense?
Yes, I see what I see. Yes, that makes sense, and that from what I see is part of the agenda driven, or chaos, or what they might say, getting order out of chaos. That's another thing. But there is some reason, there is some design behind this chaos that's being imposed, as you say, this everything goes mentality. Now, what I'm talking about is that there's more of a realization of that being questioned, like trans things being questioned. We all know about this women, this sort of thing. So what I'm basically trying to say, or trying to explain, although I'm not doing it very well, but is with regard to okay.
There's no good or bad in any of this. So you're explaining well. All you need to do is explain what you wish to see explained. What would you like to know? What would you like to say?
Right. the people who are authorities that talk about I know well, we could say
you say authorities, but you're talking about in what context? The global context, the government context, the intergovernmental context, international context, social context, domestic context, inside the home context, politics in the United States context, Krishna consciousness movement context. What is it you're looking for?
A wide subject area, it is incredibly difficult to be concise and precise, which is what I should be.
No, I'm fine with it. Be as broad as you like, but define the arena of your broadness.
Okay. Well, okay. Arena of the broad. Okay, let's stand in the park. People, for instance, the philosophy by David Icke, who's done 30 years of research into what's going on behind the world's organizations, what's running it, all this sort of thing. This comes into play. So you could say, for want of nothing else, the authority of David Icke, for instance.
Okay, but can you see that you and I have been discussing this. I've been presenting it from the point of view that we have got a breakdown of data to the degree that everything is like Google. It's all in cyberspace, and there's too much information available to 5-year-olds and 10-year-olds who don't have the slightest idea what to do with it.
Yes, you have to follow the proper.
That information is not concrete, it's not concise. So I would say that if you're hitting on the world situation is in a period of not so much intellectual disintegration or spiritual disintegration or any other type of rational disintegration, but the world is in the position of cyber disintegration, where all of the particles that make up data in a computer are being generalized as a lifestyle for people, which means that nobody has anything that they can believe in.
So what was that last bit again?
No one has anything that they can believe in, because if you take all the data around, like on a computer or on your cell phone, and mix it all around in the air, what can you believe in? It's all just a little part of it's just data, it's pluses and minuses.
This is why it's important to follow somebody who's gone through that or the proper authority on that.
Chanting Hare Krishna will deliver us from that conundrum. We will be led out of that mess by chanting Hare Krishna.
I would like to say two things about David Icke, and then we can move on from him.
Go ahead.
One thing he shows is like these demons are real and they're in the government. And now that we know they're there, we run away from it. We put our eyes on something else. We put our eyes on Krishna now. We don't need to focus there anymore. We know it's not good. Stay away from it.
You said demons, DEMONS.
Demons.
Evil entities.
For real.
But have you considered that those, I don't want to interrupt you, but have you considered that those evil entities are not very integrated within themselves? They themselves have disintegrated based on their evil precepts, but they can't even maintain themselves because they don't know who they are or what they're talking about.
Yeah, so don't put your eyes on them. Don't focus on them anymore. Focus on Krishna. And one other thing, David Icke said
that's what we do. They say that's the point.
One thing I also like that
people that deal with Krishna, they have this guru, that guru, whatever. That's all part of the same cyber disintegration.
One thing I also liked about David Icke is he emphasized cleanliness. He said all these people are pooping and wiping their butt with paper towels and shit. You should be using a bidet. You should be cleaning yourself. And cleanliness is
No.
very important.
Yeah, but you know, when you get down to it, everyone is ranting. And nobody has like these school shootings. Why on earth are they taking place? Obviously, the guy is discombobulated. Why is he discombobulated? People don't even touch on it. He's discombobulated because he's watching video games in which cyber creatures jump up and get shot with cyber guns, and you get points for it. And you come out ahead, and you can kill as many of the bad guys on the screen as you like. So then you take a real AR-15 and you go to a school and you start shooting people, and everybody's talking about, oh, how terrible, oh, you have to stop the guns, you have to do this. It has nothing to do with guns. It has to do with consciousness. It has to do with people. And as far as stopping it, what if that guy that, you know, and what if that guy that was shot several times was lying on the floor pretending to be dead? What if he had a small, little, tiny pistol in his pocket and he pulled it out and shot the gunman? What do you think of that? What if he had a pistol, pulled it out, and shot the gunman? That's what I keep waiting people to ask for. He should have had a gun.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
yeah,
how could he? If he didn't have a gun, how could he shoot the bad guy? He didn't shoot the bad guy. And the police outside were so indescribably cowardly that they all sat there drinking water out of bottles, trying to avoid the prospect that they might have to go in there and get shot at.
Well,
So this is us all a disintegrated state of mind.
There's some design behind it. It's agenda driven, and a gun shooter. I mean, David Icke touched on this, and goes into the realm of mind control. This is a big subject matter.
It used to be a big subject back in the days of Einstein, but it's not a big subject anymore because your 8-year-old child is just as discombobulated as the shooter, as the teacher, as the principal, as the government, as the CNN. It's all discombobulated. All of
It's
it.
trying to become that way. They want it to become that way. Yes, that's part of a government thing.
When we
and
say
I think
discombobulated, that
one-
sounds like the 1950s. We can say discombobulated, but we can't say it anymore. Discombobulated has reached its. We have not reached the maximum degree yet. The maximum degree would involve. Well, I mean, the latest school shooter is a 10-year-old boy who said he wants to shoot a bunch of people. And he doesn't even have a gun. You see how the psychology is, the mental state is being fragmented into tiny pieces of data, the sort of data that computers deal with. And the data is smarter than the people now. What do you think?
No,
Well-
I think we've got two directions there. From what you're saying, the smashing things into data is the one thing to put people into all kinds of holes, and the other one would be to make the sense of the data, and to make the sense of the data, and then you're in the realm of following proper, following.
Well, when you're talking about data, you need to have a speaker, you have to have a blackboard and a piece of chalk, and you have to have a listener.
Okay, just a quick FYI. We have about 5 minutes, so.
Okay, so what should you're the boss? What should we do?
Christopher, we welcome you here, Christopher, for the wonderful discussion that you've brought up. But we want to keep it onto the point. Spiritual. I know that many things relate with spirituality in the material world, but we want to reference Srila Prabhupada's books and the future ISKCON movement as Prabhupada wanted.
And that transcends the disintegration of data.
Yes, that will go on, So if you
I
we
just
can
think
discuss. Yes, we can discuss
that-
personally. Yes, Prabhu, go ahead.
I was just saying, we just need to be a bit aware of what is going on. Why? That's all that's required. It's not a
Yes.
major thing, but it
Yeah.
is important. And
Yeah, the Bhagavatam talks about these things, about how this governments exploit the people and the whole thing. If you read the Bhagavatam, it's all Prabhupada has commented on these things and how they do it, why they do it. All these things are there. So
well, what
And
what
by
I
the
was,
way,
just one final thing, I was
Ramachandra,
going to
with
say
all the
one
people you
thing.
wanted to discuss Istagosi, why not get their email addresses right now and then send that paper to them?
yes, I will do that. Christopher, are you part of the group, the WhatsApp group?
I think I am actually. Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll send you the paper, Prabhu, and any other discussions we can take on from there. We have about 2 minutes, so I'd like to give everyone an opportunity to speak, and then we'll end it in a few minutes.
Yes.
Go ahead, Christopher Prabhu.
Oh, all right. I forgot what I was going to say, but yeah. I was just just saying that we need to be a bit aware of what's going on, and I think some authorities like David Icke, when he's put a lot of work about what's happening at the moment in the world, and and what's the design behind it, and that this sort of thing I think would permeate the temples, all kinds of institutions around the world. I think there are a lot of people. Basically, what I'm trying to say is a lot of people saying, yeah, there's a spiritual war, and I think we need to appreciate a lot of these other paths, yet knowing that this Krishna consciousness path is the topmost, because it's talking about personality of Godhead. But instead of being so much into that, oh, we're the best, or something, give other people a chance, because they're doing good work, and we come together, not as a we come together, in other words, appreciating the paths. And if Krishna consciousness is the highest path, then we can do that a lot easier. And I think this is a very important thing. And also, yeah, what I was going to say is that in the current ISKCON, they are all well, like pretty much following the government mandates, believing the COVID thing, which is a terrible thing. And what I did one thing back in December, which I will say, I got in contact with a devotee who lives in New Zealand. His name is Sitapati Das, and I managed to get him somehow. It's one of my big success so far. Big success. I managed to get him on the Right Now show and get him interviewed with Gareth Icke, and you can see a 1 minute clip of that on YouTube if you do a search. But I'll transcribe the 12-minute interview where he goes into things. So things like this is a spiritual.
What we are concentrating on is being sure that Prabhupada is experienced as being the center of ISKCON, and that everybody can become his disciples. All this other stuff is raw phenomena that will float away. We are just interested in Prabhupada being the center of ISKCON, that his sound vibration be the sound vibration for the temple, for the Krishna consciousness movement, for the chanting for the next 10,000 years.
Guy, okay.
That's all.
Jagannath Prabhu, last concluding words, Prabhu. We're at 10 o'clock, so we have to end. So we'll continue the meeting tomorrow. Christopher, thank you very much for sharing. Sorry, we have to cut you off, Prabhu, but it's 10 o'clock here.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, thanks for having me on, and it's been great listening to you guys the last few months and things, and yes, it's good stuff.
Thank you very much.
The whole point is seeing Prabhupada as the living acharya of ISKCON. Christopher, so if you can do that, you've accomplished a great deal.
Jagannath Prabhu, any concluding words, Prabhu? Jagannath Das Prabhu?
Not for me. Thank you, everybody.
Is one thing I was looking at tonight. That's anyway, not night.
We'll talk again tomorrow, Prabhus. Thank you very much to all our devotees, Jagannath Prabhu, Christopher,
Hare
Mohan,
Krishna.
Vinayak, Rupa Manjari, Narayan Prabhu. We'll see everyone tomorrow.
My obeisances to you all.
Hare Krishna.
You're all jivas and you're all part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, I worship you all as though you are Krishna, because the jivas are Krishna in a minute form.
Thank you. Haribol.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.